Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast, where today we're going over UFC 291 Poirier versus Gaethje. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok. Wherever there's social media, there is the Stats and Stats podcast. First things first, let's address it. 1 of 1 unlocks a gun. Ridiculous. Fuck you, Andre Muniz. I should have known. I should have known he was better than Paul Craig everywhere, but all Paul Craig does is win as an underdog. Just don't do it. I don't know what my problem was. I don't know what I was thinking. He's the hometown guy. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. I don't know what I was doing. So make sure we get back on track here with a great card, man. It's a really, really fun pay-per-view card. There were a lot of cards that got moved off it or got canceled due to just fighters falling off. But it's, all in all, even though there's some replacement fights on here, it's still a fun fight card. 12 card offering, a perfect amount. Everything about this card is fun. So let's go ahead and just kind of hop right into it. And honestly, the very, very first fight of the night, we're going to already start with a late replacement. We have late replacement short notice Miranda Maverick at minus 315 coming up against Priscilla Cachoeira at plus 245. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 120. Under 2.5 at minus 110. Let's start with Priscilla catch a beating. Priscilla's not good. Priscilla's not good at all. She hits decently hard. That's about all the positives. I always love to lay out some positives they have, some negatives they have. Her positives are that she hits hard because her striking's honestly not that good. She's extremely hittable. She gets hit twice as much as she dishes out. Her cardio is not very good, although she will fight for 15 minutes. Her nickname is Zombie Girl because that's how she fights after 4 minutes. Like she has nothing left in the tank, and it's just all heart marching forward, letting you punch her in the face so that she can throw 2 hard shots every minute. Like that's all she has. Her takedown defense, he's rocking a 65% takedown defense, so the number is not high enough. Her jiu-jitsu is god awful. Like it's very, very bad. We saw Jillian Robinson submit her, expose her on the ground. We saw Molly McCann take her down repeatedly. That definitely didn't age well. Valentina Shevchenko got a submission over her, who is a striker. Like nothing looks good here, honestly. And she doesn't ever make weight. She misses weight all the time. She's been pulled from fights and had cancellations because she missed weight before. So all in all, there's not really anything to like Cachoeira, aside the fact that she's always a massive dog and she keeps getting knockout wins. I mean, look at her. Ariana Lipsky was a big dog, got a knockout win. Ji Young Kim, for some reason, they gave her that decision. Kim outstruck her by like 60 strikes, and there were no takedowns. I don't know how Cachoeira won that fight, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Judges love her. Gina Mazzani was whooping her ass and then gassed out as she always does, and then Priscilla was able to knock her out. And Shayna Dobson has one of the woke chins in UFC history. Has a negative record, and she went out there and knocked her out. So yeah, she gets a lot of finishes, but even Ariana Lipsky, that win looks good now. But Lipsky has a notoriously bad chin. So I don't know, man. And look at her last 3 fights. Canceled, canceled, canceled. Is this one even going to happen? We don't know. Who knows at this point? On the flip side, we have Miranda Maverick, who let everyone down in her last fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine is not a good fighter whatsoever, but Miranda just really shit the bed. Her jiu-jitsu is pretty good. I'll give her that. Her striking's not good at all. She is not a good striker whatsoever. Her cardio, it's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just there. It's presentable. And her wrestling, she's been exposed, man. When you really, really look at her wrestling, I love that she's at Team Elevation. So that's going to help her because again, this fight card is in Utah, so please be cognizant of that the entire time. If anyone has a bad gas tank, you want to fade them here at Salt Lake City. But when you go back and you look at her wrestling in general, it didn't look the greatest against Sabina Mazo. It was okay. She took her down 4 times, but Sabina is like the worst takedown defense ever. Erin Blanchfield took her down a million times. Macy Barber, she wasn't really able to use the wrestling. I mean, Macy, I thought she won the Macy Barber fight, but I had a bet on Macy, so it is what it is. I'll take the win. But I thought she won that fight. And if anything, you thought she would take down Macy and expose her. Andrea Lee took down Macy Barber like 5 times. Why could Miranda Maverick not? And of course, the very last fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius, she went 0 of 3 for takedowns. And not only did she not get the takedown, as soon as she shot a takedown, she shot a single leg. I notice all of her takedowns she's ever gotten in the UFC are single legs. That's her only thing. There is no chain wrestling. It's single leg or bust. And she fully committed in her last fight to the single leg. And then she would just get bellied out. Like you never, ever, ever. You're supposed to drive through, or you cut a corner if you're gonna if you're gonna run a single. Do not just try to charge forward and do a blast single. Like it makes zero sense. The wrestling IQ is very questionable. But again, we're in elevation. She's going to have a clear jiu-jitsu advantage. The striking is not good, but all you really need is a jab to fight Cachoeira, to be honest with you. And if she takes Cachoeira down at all, it's a loss. Like she's going to win this fight if she takes her down. I don't hate the under at all, but Maverick isn't necessarily a finisher. Yes, she finished the Sabina Mazo fight. And yes, this is kind of similar, to be honest with you. A very, very similar matchup here. And if Cachoeira wins, she's going to win by knockout. So again, I don't hate the under. You can't do the chalk with Maverick here. I don't really like the dog here. So I'll take the under at -110. So the pick is going to be Miranda. It's wrestler versus striker. I'll take the grappler and as always, but I can't trust her. And she just let me down at -300, and she's -300 again. Fuck no, I'm not doing it. Pick is Miranda. Bet's going to be the under. All right, next fight of the night is one that I do trust a ton. We have Matt Semmelsberger at -205 going up against Euros Medic at +175. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 -155. Under 1.5 at +125. Let me tell you why I like this fight so much is because Miranda Maverick in the last fight, she trains in elevation, so she's fine. Euros Medic has taken this fight on short notice, and he does not train at elevation. And you know what? He has a notoriously bad gas tank. He is a gasser. He has good striking. He has a ton of power. When you look at his record, he has 8 wins. All of them are by finish. He's actually never made it to the third round. His longest fight is the one in the UFC against Jalen Turner, and he did not make it to the third round there, and he did fade there. All of his wins inside the distance. He has 1 triangle choke. God bless that soul. And then everyone else is by knockout. So the dude has decent striking. He hits decently hard. It's just his UFC run has been at 155. Omar Morales fights at 145 a lot and got cut by the UFC. Jalen Turner is a huge 155 pounder. Elon Cruz is not very good. Mikey Gonzalez isn't exactly the greatest. And then the rest of his fights are in Alaska FC. And we all know about Alaska FC, the Carlton Minuses of the world. Like, go to Alaska FC. What was the guy from a few weeks ago that fight? Simon Terrence Mitchell fights in Alaska FC. Like, there's Alaska FC notoriously gives bad fighters. In addition, he's taken this fight on short notice, notorious bad gas tank, up a weight class. Again, at 155. This fight is at 170. His jiu-jitsu is very questionable. His wrestling's kind of questionable. And he's coming, and not only that, he hasn't fought in over a year because he's having a hand injury. So his only method of victory is by knockout. And he's fighting with a newly repaired hand. Like, I don't like any part of this for him. As long as he's fighting anyone that's decent, Euros is probably going to lose. And he's fighting Matt Semmelsberger, who is the definition of that. He's not anything to write home about, but he's decent. He's not bad. He's fought a higher level of competition, fighting people like Jeremiah Wells, fighting people like Jake Matthews, AJ Fletcher, Alex Morono, Chaos Williams. Those guys are decent. They're not great, but they're not bad fighters by any means. Not only that, he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here, which is definitely going to help him out. His biggest weakness is his wrestling. He's rocking a 52% wrestling or 52% takedown defense, but Euros doesn't wrestle. So I think he'll be perfectly fine on that front. He has pretty good cardio. Again, he's a little hittable. I don't like that at all. But he generally marches forward, and he'll mix in wrestling himself. Again, 52% takedown defense, but he'll mix it in wrestling here and there. He took down Jake Matthews. I'm pretty sure he took down AJ Fletcher and Alex Morono. Like, he will take you down occasionally. He seems to be pretty durable. He fought Chaos Williams, who hits decently hard. Alex Morono gets a lot of knockouts. He was able to eat all those shots. Jeremiah Wells hits really hard, and he knocked Jeremiah Wells down 3 times. He has been knocked out in the past, don't get me wrong, but it was in round 3. And he got choked out once in round 3. So it usually takes a while and you have to wear on him. He even fought William Knight, and William Knight is what, a heavyweight the last time he fought. He was able to knock him out, but again, it took some time halfway through the second round. Euros is coming up a weight class, so at the end of the day, Matt Summelsberger's it's pretty much a wash on the feet. If anything, I'll give it the Euros, but by the slightest of margins. But the cardio is clearly Matt. Wrestling, clearly Matt. Jiu-jitsu, clearly Matt. And the striking is so close. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He has a full training camp. It's just his weight class. It's his fight to lose. The pick is going to be Matt, and I will be parlaying Matt in a ton of parlays. I like Matt a lot this week. On the flip side, the next fight I don't like that much. I don't really know what to do with it. We have CJ Vergara at -160 going up against Vinicius Salvador at +130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 +125. Under 2.5 -155. Whenever you see CJ Vergara as a favorite, you think something is wrong. Maybe you saw a typo. No, they just really don't believe in Vinicius Salvador. So why do I think CJ could be a typo being a favorite? Because his striking's good. He loves the pressure. He puts a shit ton of pressure on you. His cardio's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's all right. But he's 32. This is the finished product. He doesn't have the greatest submission game. We saw him go for an arm triangle against Daniel Lacerda. But outside of that, I don't really see a lot of submission coming from him. And he effectively has 4 fights in the UFC. Let's see. Oda, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then one in the Contender Series. He shot 0 takedowns. All 5 fights under the Zuffa banner, 0 takedown attempts. So this is going to be a stand-up affair. Don't get me wrong. He has high volume. I love the pressure he puts on, and he has a good schedule. Daniel Lacerda is good. I don't care what anyone says. I know he's 0-4 in the UFC. That guy is good. If they had a 1-round division, because he cannot go past 5 minutes. He literally looks like a top 5 guy the first 5 minutes of the fight, and then he falls off a cliff in his bottom 5. It's like something I've never seen before. But the first 5 minutes, he took everything Daniel Lacerda had him running all around the cage, and he was able to survive, show his perseverance, and get a dub. Tatsuya Taira is a future title challenger. Like, Taira is the real deal. Clinton Rodriguez is an absolute stud. He never makes weight for flyweight, but the few times he fought there, he's an absolute killer. And Ode Osborne's okay. He's your traditional gatekeeper. It is what it is. But he came back and he looked pretty good in that fight in the later rounds, showed his cardio. And I think Bruno Carrera is one of the best flyweights outside of the UFC. That Bruno guy is good. I don't care what anyone says. Has incredible wins on his record. So he's fought 5 times under Zuffa promotion, and he's fought all decent guys, all guys that could be ranked at some point, to be honest with you. On the flip side, Vinicius Salvador, God, he has fought no one with a winning record. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at this guy's record. He's 14-5. It's the most padded thing I've ever seen. He's 27, which I like. That's usually that age where you used to see a ton of improvements. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here, which is a nice thing. His striking's not that great. He only throws hooks. Hooks to the body, hooks to the head, that's it. But the thing that really concerns me is his schedule. He beat Shannon Ross on the Contender Series, which we know is an absolute fraud. Shannon Ross is the worst chin the UFC has ever seen. Outside of that, before the Contender Series fight, okay? This guy, before the Contender Series, was 13-4. Why the fuck is he fighting someone that's 0-0? You are 13-4. Why are you fighting someone in their debut? Oh, wait, because he did that the fight before that. He fought someone in their professional debut. And before that, at least he fought someone that has fights before. But look at the record. It's 9-3. It's nothing crazy. And before that, what does he do? He fights to someone that's 0-0 again. He loves that 0-0 record. He fought someone that had a winning record at 8-1, and he lost. He fought someone that had a winning record at 9-3, and he lost. He fought Jafel Fiala, who's also in the UFC, and he lost. And not only is he losing, he got finished in 2 of those 3. Before that, you have someone that's, let's see, is that 0-5? Sorry, my eyesight's pretty bad right now. 6-5, 4-2, 7-7, 0-0, 2-0, 1-2, and then a few guys that don't even have records listed. So at the end of the day, he's fought like 6 guys with winning records, and he's lost 4 of them. So that's very, very concerning. Again, his striking, he's predominantly a striker. He will have a reach advantage here. The striking is not terrible. It's just everything is looping. He throws nothing down the pipe. He has no wrestling whatsoever. He got out grappled by Victor Altamirano, who's a Mexican boxer, so that's concerning. And although he wants to stay on the feet, he's hittable when he's on the feet. He's easy to hit. So I don't know, man. You can't wrestle. Your cardio slows and you're in elevation. You're traveling across the country. You have high volume, but you fought absolutely nobody, and you have the worst haircut known to man. So I can't do any of this. I want no parts of Salvador. The longer I talk, the more I do not want to bet Salvador. I talked myself into a Vergara bet. I don't feel good about it. I don't think Vergara is good by any means, but Salvador sucks, man. I can't do it. The pick is going to be Vergara. The bet's going to be Vergara. All right. Next fight of the night is one that should be an absolute lock that is scaring the shit out of me. We have Jake Matthews minus 265 going up against Darius Flowers at plus 225. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus money plus 155. Under 2.5 minus 190. Let's start with Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews is only 29 years old. It doesn't feel right because he's been in the UFC forever. But yeah, he's only 29 years old, so he's still in his prime, entering his prime. Sorry, 28 years old, not even 29 yet. Jake Matthews has good striking. His cardio's okay. He's on paper a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. His wrestling is not terrible. We've seen him use that in the past. So you're looking at someone that has good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, and good cardio. What's wrong with him? Well, he's only been knocked out once, but he gets dropped in a lot of his fights. So that does concern me. Also, he has good offensive wrestling. Defensively, he has a 60% takedown defense. So if you can wrestle, he's in a little bit of trouble there. And he also prefers to counter. So I'm not the biggest fan of someone that only counter strikes, but in this instance, he has someone that wants to throw first, so that's pretty good for him. And he's also Australian, so you just get an automatic skill boost when you're Australian. I don't know, man. I've seen good Jake Matthews and I've seen bad Jake Matthews. I mean, you see a different version every time he's in there. Matthew Semmelsberger, he was an okay Jake Matthews, but his chin was whooped. Andre Fiallo, he looked the greatest he's ever looked against him. Sean Brady, we saw someone that's, although he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, struggle in the grappling. Against Diego Sanchez, I know as a ghost of Diego Sanchez, but it looked like D1 Jake Matthews out there. We looked at Emil Meek. He looked all right, man. So I've seen him look great striking. I've seen him look good wrestling. I've seen him look great on the ground. And I've seen him look chinny. I've seen him get out grappled. I've seen him get out struck. You don't know what version of fucking Jake Matthews you're ever going to get. So if you get anyone that's good, be wary of Jake, especially at minus 255. That's just concerning and something you probably shouldn't bet. But he's fighting Darius Flowers. And this is my concern. Darius Flowers sucks. Darius Flowers is not good. Darius Flowers can do one thing, and that is hit hard. That's all he can do. Can he do it long? No. He has bad cardio. It's very, very bad. He, too, is also 28 years old, coming off the Contender Series on short notice. I don't like that at all. Coming off short notice when you already have bad cardio, you're taking it on a week or two notice in elevation. This is just overall concerning. His wrestling offensively is fine. Defensively, not the greatest. His jiu-jitsu, not the greatest. I mean, he's 12-5, right? And one no contest, but or draw. He's 12-5. He got choked out in one loss. Submitted in another one. He got knocked out in one. He got submitted in another. Submitted in another. So he has 5 losses, and all of them, except for one, are by submission, and he is 100% finished. So that's concerning. I don't know, man. Even when you go back to his amateur scene, submitted. His jiu-jitsu is awful. He does not have good jiu-jitsu. He has okay wrestling. His striking is not good. He's one of those Yoel Romero's where he's going to just load and reload. He will throw a 5-punch combination with nothing but heat and then stare at you for 50 seconds and then go right back and throw another 5-punch combination and then just take his breath and catch it and just stare at you for 50 seconds. And he just does this over and over and over until he finishes you or you finish him. That's what he does. I don't know, man. He's not good. But it's Contender Series, what is the flukiest thing. People want to give him credit because a guy's shoulder popped out and he slammed him. They were in such an awkward situation. He had an inverted triangle. It's not like he did like he had him in a triangle and he did a Quentin Rampage Jackson powerbomb. Like, that's not what happened. He was caught in an inverted triangle. He panicked. He didn't know what to do. He stood up at one point and then just kind of jumped on the ground and hit a tombstone pile driver, and the guy's shoulder popped out. He did not intentionally do that. He had no idea how to defend that, so he just jumped in the air. Like this was not something intentional. He didn't even know he got the finish until after and started celebrating. It was by accident. He accidentally got a UFC contract. But if you are an underdog in Dana White Contender Series and you get a win, you get a contract. That's how it works. He was an underdog. He wasn't supposed to win. He accidentally jumped on somebody and their shoulder popped out. He got a contract. Welcome to the UFC. You get Jake Matthews on short notice. So I don't know, man. He loves to go forward, but he's wild. He's not technical. Jake has the better cardio. Jake has the better striking. Jake has the better wrestling. Jake, a wash on the wrestling. And Jake has the better jiu-jitsu. But Jake has a suspect chin and shits the bed all the time. Darius Flowers has nothing to lose, but he has no cardio. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's got to be Jake. Jake or bust. So the pick is going to be Jake. It's going to be Jake. And I'm going to be petrified the entire time. Next fight of the night is one that actually I warmed up on a lot. We have Roman Kopylov at minus 240 going up against Claudio Ribeiro at plus 195. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 155. Under 1.5 at plus 125. Let's start with Roman, because Roman's impressive, man. Roman is good striking. He throws a shit ton of kicks. But the main thing with him is that his wrestling sucks. He's a Russian that can't wrestle. I know it's an anomaly. It looks weird. He fought a whole bunch of bums on the regional scene that only struck. He somehow was in a Russian promotion where they weren't wrestling him. He is a very good striker, and he looked like an absolute killer. Problem is, he came into the UFC where people can wrestle, and he got exposed. He got exposed by Carl Robertson, which did not age the greatest, and then got submitted. Again, his jiu-jitsu game is not the greatest. He then took years and years off, 2019 to 2021. He took 2 years off. Then he fought Albert Duraev. Albert Duraev exposed him in the wrestling again, and also showed that he has suspect cardio. So that was not a good look. But it looked better than the Carl Roberson version we saw, right? Next fight, we had Alessio Di Chirico. For some reason, I was on Di Chirico over in France, and he looked much improved. He looked very good. His wrestling, his takedown defense was 10 times better. I was like, what happened to this guy? This is not the guy I just saw fight Albert Duraev just a few months ago. What happened is he went and realized, hey, I'm in Russia. We're good at wrestling. Can I find someone to train with that's going to help me? And he found Dagestani wrestlers to come help him out. And his wrestling has looked on point ever since. He then fought Puno Soriano, who has like a D2 wrestling background. Stuffed everything and beat the shit out of him on the feet, and even got the finish. And Puna's very, very durable. He will fight and fight and fight. He's a tough Hawaiian. But Roman put him out, and Roman has looked better and better every single fight. And if this trend continues, this guy could be ranked, man. Roman is good. He has one problem. His wrestling is still improving. Not one problem, but his jiu-jitsu is a problem. His cardio is an issue. It's a concern. And his wrestling is getting better, but it could get better as he gets higher up. He needs to just improve it a little. But the rest, everything else, Roman has. He has the goods. He's actually a good fighter. He's turned it around, and it's nice to see. On the flip side, Claudio Ribeiro, this guy's just one word, man, infectious. He's fun. He's not very good, to be honest with you. But you got to watch the weigh-ins because he just celebrates the entire time. He just dances up to the scale, and you just hear his team in the background yelling, hey, hey, hey. It's kind of humorous, to be honest with you. He's 31 years old, so he's kind of a finished product as well. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. And his striking, it's not good. It's not bad. It's all right. But he has a ton of power. The dude can crack. I'll give him that. Problem with him is he also has a little bit of a cardio issue. He prefers to counter, and Roman is probably the better striker here. And my biggest concern was I saw Roman throw a lot of body and leg kicks, and I never saw Claudio check a kick. I watched 5 Claudio Ribeiro fights. I haven't seen one check leg kick. That's concerning. I think Roman's going to pick him apart. So on that front, Claudio did wrestle in his last fight, but it didn't look good. He just happened to be fighting Joseph Holmes, who was the worst wrestler in division before he got cut. So he utilized a weakness, which showed good fight IQ. But the fight before that, he was kind of pushed up the fence against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, and then he got KO'd. So, yeah, I like Claudio. He's fun. He seems like a nice guy. but he's a striker who is going to get outstruck. He's someone that tries to mix in wrestling that he's not good at, fighting a Russian who just worked on his takedown defense, and he has no jujitsu, fighting someone with no jujitsu. So I don't know. He doesn't check leg kicks. He likes to counter. It's just a bad recipe for everything. So the pick is going to be Roman. The bet's going to be Roman, and I'm liking it more and more every day, to be honest with you. And I think every analyst I trust, the Dogger Pass podcast, please give them a listen. They're awesome, awesome guys. And they know their shit. They are on Roman. Die Hard MMA podcast with Clint knows his shit. He's on Roman. Brady over at DFS by the numbers. Stat Diggers with Uncle Weezy. Like all these guys that I trust are all on Roman. And I was on Roman, and the more they talk, the more I am like dead set on Roman. So the pick is going to be Roman. The bet is going to be Roman, and I feel good about it. All right. I'm sorry about the nasally sound. These allergies still whooping my ass. I don't know what to do about it. Take as much as we can. But next fight of the night is also something I don't know what to do with. We got Derek Lewis at plus 155. Just doesn't feel right against Marcos Rogerio de Lima at minus 200. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 155. Under 1.5 minus 190. Let's start with you know what? Let's start with Marcos Rogerio de Lima because he's a fraud, man. He's not very good, to be honest with you. First of all, he used to fight at light heavyweight for most of his career. He's not a true heavyweight. He struggled to make the weight, but he got there enough times to where I don't know if he's a true heavyweight. He has a ton of power. I'll give him that. He hits extremely hard. His wrestling's not bad for heavyweight. It's not good, but a lot of heavyweights can't wrestle, so it's good for heavyweight. I'll give him that. His jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt on paper. Do I believe he's a black belt? I don't know. We saw him choke out Arlovsky, which was nice, but we also saw him get forearm choked by Alexander Romanov, my guy. So I don't know about this. He's kind of a fraudulent black belt. My biggest problem with him is that his level of competition at heavyweight. He fought Alexander Romanov, which is whatever. Alexander Romanov. A lot of people don't like him. I love Romanov. King Kong's my boy. But I'll be honest with you, he's not that good. He's okay. He's not as bad as people say he is, but he's not good. Maurice Green is god awful on cigarettes and out of the UFC. Ben Rothwell is in bare knuckle fighting right now. Look away. If he hasn't cut yet, he will be. He looks terrible, and he's like 50 years old. Andrei Arlovsky is legitimately 50 years old and should be on a retirement tour soon. And Waldo Cortez Acosta is a Dana White Contender Series guy who was just tailor-made. He doesn't really have takedown defense, and he doesn't check leg kicks. And those are the two methods of victory for Lima. So that was a tailor-made matchup against a young green guy who used to play baseball growing up. So yeah, not the greatest wins at heavyweight. And his cardio, we are in elevation. I am fading all of the bad gas tanks. I know Lewis is not exactly a beacon of cardio. It's better than Lima's. Lima does not have cardio. On the flip side, Derek Lewis is the definition of puncher's chance. The dude is the hardest hitter in probably heavyweight history. You have Francis Ngannou and this guy. And honestly, this guy has more knockouts. So, and a win over Francis Ngannou in that crazy slugfest. Yeesh. But yeah, he too slow, so you got to watch that. But his striking's good. His wrestling, 52% takedown defense doesn't exactly look the greatest, but his level of competition, yeah, he's on a 4-fight losing streak. But again, Sergey Spivak could fight for a title soon. Sergey Pavlovich will probably fight for a title soon. Tai Tuivasa was 1 fight away from fighting for a title. And Cyril Gane was former champion. Junior Dos Santos, former champion. Daniel Cormier, former champion. Mark Hunt, one of the best strikers this division has ever seen. Sean Jordan, Matt Mitrione, just all right back in the day, but we're talking all the way back to 2014. So his last few losses are all to former champs or people that are about to fight for the title. So let's cut him a little bit of slack here. Wins against Curtis Blades look great. Chris Daukaus, Alessio Liddick looks okay. Valera Tifi, not the greatest. Blagoy split, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, he's a striker. He hits extremely hard. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. He's the real heavyweight. He's fought the better guys. He's hittable. I don't like that. But he's not. He doesn't just go out with every punch. Yeah, he's been knocked out. Sergey hits like an absolute truck. Taito Ivasa hits hard. It is what it is. You're going to get caught eventually. And Cyril Gahn, it took him 3 rounds. He just eventually faded, succumbed under the pressure. Lima can't put on that pressure. If Lima wants to stand and bang, he might go out. If he wants to incorporate wrestling, he's going to gas out. So that leaves us with, who do we pick? I pick Lewis. It's dog or pass, and Lewis is the better fighter with plus money. I'm going to take Lewis. Here's the crazy thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at Lewis by decision at plus 1,000. Hear me out. If Lima decides to wrestle round 1, perfect. That'd be great. Because there's a chance Lima's only been knocked out once in his career, and it was 10 years ago. Okay. I know he hasn't fought at heavyweight in a long time. I fully understand that. But Lima looks like he can take a little bit. He's got a big ass head. I think he can take a little bit of a punch. If he can take a punch, the crowd is obviously going to be behind Derek Lewis. Every punch Derek Lewis throws, crowd is going to cheer. Lima gasses out and hardly throws anything. Extremely low volume. He could go out there and just leg kick the shit out of him. Derek Lewis could get TKO. That could happen too. But if Derek Lewis is not finished, or Derek Lewis is not just dominated on top, and it's on the feet for an extended period of time, the crowd is going to sway the judges into giving it to Derek Lewis. I'm telling you right now. So the pick is going to be Derek Lewis. The bet's going to be Derek Lewis. And I think I'm going to go fucking crazy, all a glory play, and do Derek Lewis by decision. I also like that over 1.5. I like that as well. All right. Next fight of the night is another one I don't trust. I don't know what to do with. I don't trust the favorite. I don't trust the dog. What do you do? We have Trevin Giles at plus 265 going up against Gabriel Bonfim at minus 320. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 105. Under 1.5 at minus 125. God, let's start with Bonfim, because Bonfim is good jiu-jitsu, okay? But he's 25 years old. And he looks it. He's pretty green. When you go back and you watch his fight tape, he's kind of hittable, to be honest with you. He's rocking a nice 14-0 record. His wrestling, it looked okay, but so did his brothers, and it got exposed in his last fight, and it really cost me a lot of money. It pissed me off. So I'm a little biased right now, but I'll be honest, his brother's wrestling looked better than his, and his brother got exposed, so that makes me question his wrestling. On the flip side, he's a little reckless when he's out there. Yeah, you see him throw, and he throws heat, and he looks good, but everything's kind of wild, and he leaves his chin way up in the air. He is just asking to get countered, and he also finishes a lot of these fights early. I don't know about his cardio, to be honest with you. Round 1, round 3. Okay, that's good. Round 1, round 2, round 3, round 1, round 1. Round 2. Like, all of these wins are by finish, and they're all mostly in round 1. So that's very concerning to me. Even some of the records, I know I harped on Vinicius Salvador, 0-0, 0-1, 4-3, 7-9, 1-1, 0-1, 1-1, 3-2. Is that a 6-2? Okay. 3-6, 6-0, 13-3. So right until 2021 is when he started fighting people with positive records. So it looks all right. Trey Waters is a pretty decent win, to be honest with you. But I can't say he was losing that fight, but it was very, very close until that Von Flue choke. And he was in a tight guillotine. He's 25 and he's green and he makes some mistakes. If he fights a good vet, they're going to take advantage of him and he's going to lose a fight. And it's coming soon. I don't know if Trevin Giles is that guy. Is Trevin Giles a vet? Yes. Is Trevin Giles good everywhere? Yes. Is Trevin Giles someone that can pull off the upset? I don't know. I really don't. He's 30 years old, so he's in his prime. His jiu-jitsu is good. He's a black belt. His wrestling, good. His striking, good. He's a little low volume, but he will have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. He has a really nice jab, so he knows how to utilize that reach advantage. He has a great schedule. I mean, he has fought all the way up at 205. This fight is at 170. He has wins over Ryan Spann. He has wins over Brendan Allen by finish. That aged beautifully. So did the Ryan Spann one. Ike Villanueva, hear me out, was in the UFC. He has wins over James Krause. That was questionable. Roman Dolidze, even though it was a questionable win, he got the win. That's a credible one. And when you look at his losses, honestly, his losses losing to Michael Morales. Michael Morales is like a future contender. That guy is really, really good. Dricus du Plessis is about to fight for a world title at middleweight. Gerald Meerschaert is the biggest. He's the biggest submission threat in like UFC history outside of Charles Oliveira. But at middleweight, he has the most submission wins. And Zach Cummings, he beat the shit out of Zach Cummings. I remember watching that one live in person, and then Zach Cummings came from behind and got the win. He just gassed out. So he had a gas out loss, and he gassed out against Meerschaert, and then he lost to two like title challengers. So not bad losses, good wins. There's a lot to like about Trevin Giles. He is literally not bad anywhere. Problem with him is that he's a touch chinny. He is low volume and he has poor cardio. And we're in elevation. We're fading bad gas tanks. I'm not sure about Gabriel's gas tank. I'm really not. But Trevin Giles isn't really a finisher. And Gabriel leaves a lot of openings to get caught. Trevin Giles, he just doesn't catch anyone. He goes to decision. So for that reason, I want to fade Bonfim, but I don't think this is the time. But do not parlay Bonfim and everything. I'm giving you fair warning. I am still staring at this Giles line. I might take the money line. I might take him by decision. I don't know. I'm staring at it. But right now, I'm going to have to pick Bonfim. I'm going to have to still bet Bonfim, but I might change my mind, and I am not parlaying him in anything. He is a parlay killer this week. All right. Next, speaking of parlay killers, we have Michael Chiesa at plus 125 going up against Kevin Holland at minus 145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 140. Under 2.5 minus 175. Kevin Holland might bust some parlays too. I know Michael Chiesa is the public dog. Public dogs never hit, but styles make fights. Chiesa is 35 years old. I don't like that. But he is a good wrestler. He has great jiu-jitsu. Okay. He has a great schedule. He's fought former champs. He's fought Anthony Pettis. He's fought Vicente Luque, Sean Brady, Neil Magny, RDA, and he's beaten a lot of these guys. Kevin Lee, Beneil Dariush, a win submission over Beneil Dariush that aged wonderfully, like Francisco Trinaldo. He has fought and beat some of the best of the best. Problem with him is that he's a little chinny. He's only been knocked out once, but he gets dropped all the time because he has zero striking whatsoever. He has very, very, very low volume and zero striking. He's one of the worst strikers I've ever seen in the UFC. He cannot throw a punch. He can't kick. He can't do anything. He is helpless on the feet. But he's very good at closing the distance. He's very good at getting the takedown, and he's very good at top control. He's not the greatest off of his back. You see a lot of submissions here. Let's see Jorge Masvidal darts him because he gasses too. He had some bad cardio. It was a lot worse at 155. I don't know how he ever made 155, but it's still not the greatest at welterweight. You do have to watch his cardio. But he gassed and he got caught against Jorge. Kevin Lee choked him out. Anthony Pettis choked him out. Darce choke against Vicente Luque. A lot of these are when he's sprawled out or he's on his back. He has very good top control, very good jiu-jitsu when he's on top. Off his back is a little questionable, to be honest with you. We also have Kevin Holland here, who is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's very good on the ground. It's very underrated. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. He has really good striking. He hits extremely hard. So you're saying, why is Kevin Holland in jeopardy? He has good cardio. He also has a good schedule. He used to fight at middleweight. He's coming down to welterweight. Michael Chiesa used to fight at lightweight, and he came up to welterweight. So everything favors Kevin Holland except for one glaring issue. 50% takedown defense. Not good. If you shoot 10 takedowns, you're getting 5 of them. Kevin Holland cannot wrestle. And this is notorious, and everyone who beats Kevin Holland wins the same way. Double legs take him down, he can't get back up. Stephen Thompson, he broke his hand. It was a good fight. It was a close fight. Who knows what was going on there. Before that, Hamzat took him down, submitted him. Before that, Marvin Vettori took him down and held him down. Derek Brunson took him down and held him down. Brendan Allen took him down and submitted him. That's the issue. He can't wrestle. Thiago Santos in his debut took him down. Thiago Santos, yes, he's a black belt on the ground, but he's predominantly a striker with a ton of power, and he knocks everyone out. He took down Kevin Holland because Kevin Holland cannot stuff a takedown. What does Michael Chiesa do? Wrestles only. That is it. Takes you down and holds you on top. Oh, so Kevin Holland had improved wrestling. It's looked better at welterweight compared to middleweight. I'll give him that. But this is wrestler versus striker. Kevin Holland is the better fighter. Kevin Holland has a good line at minus 145. I bet Chiesa at plus 155 and love it. Like, beat the line. Because right now at plus 125, I do not like it as much. But I honestly cannot trust someone with 50% takedown defense going against someone who only wrestles and just stays on top of you. I can't do it. So the pick is going to be Chiesa. The bet's going to be Chiesa. It's the public dog. It's probably going to lose because that's how public dogs work. But I, in good conscience, can't tell you to take the striker over the wrestler when the wrestler is that good and the striker's that bad at wrestling. Next fight of the night is it's another just real. These are fun fights to watch, but not to bet. Tony Ferguson plus 310. Jesus. Going up against Bobby King Green. I think his name is just King or something now at minus 410. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 145. Under 2.5 plus 115. Let's start with just the elephant in the room. And Tony, he's 39 years old. He is old as shit. He has a 5-inch reach advantage here, which looks nice. He's had a great schedule. He has good jiu-jitsu, one hell of a darce. He has good cardio. His wrestling, he's a D1 wrestler, but he can't wrestle to save his life. He's only taken down one guy in like years. He doesn't use his wrestling at all. His takedown defense is not good, so that's concerning. He has a pretty decent volume when he's on the feet. No power whatsoever, but he'll throw a ton of volume at you. It's just he's 39 and he's declining. Yes, he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. And you say, oh, well, they're the great guys. Jesse Gaethje, great. Charles Oliveira, former champ. Beneil Dariush, great. Michael Chandler, great. Nate Diaz, not so much. This is a bad Nate Diaz, and he went out there and he looked absolutely terrible. Everyone wanted to bet Tony at this price, and they go back and they watch the fight tape against that Nate Diaz fight last year, and they just can't do it because that's how bad he looked. He looked like a shell of himself. He looked like he didn't want to engage. He looked like he didn't want to wrestle. He looked like I don't know if he just respected Nate too much. I think that could have been part of it, or he's completely washed and clinically insane. It's one of the two, or honestly, he could be insane and be washed at this point. He's just a problem at 39 years old. He is now Tony Ferguson. El Kukui is dead. On the flip side, Bobby Green is just someone who is notorious for just blowing it. He's not a good favorite. He never wins as a favorite. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's 36 years old, so he's not exactly a spring chicken. He has really good striking, really good head movement. He's pretty durable. I know he got knocked out in his last fight against Drew Dober, but Drew Dober hits pretty hard, and he was winning that fight prior to. He also has very high volume. His jiu-jitsu, kind of non-existent. He doesn't have a lot of jiu-jitsu. He's been tapped a lot. His wrestling, his takedown defense is pretty good, but it doesn't really matter because Tony doesn't shoot takedowns. It's just he's fought okay guys, but nothing towards the level of Tony Ferguson. And he just does boneheaded stuff in there. He's winning the fight until he's not. Jared Gordon, he was winning the fight, then a no contest happens. Drew Dober, he was winning the fight, then he got caught with the left hook. Islam Makhachev just ran through him. Rafael Fiziev just kind of he won the third round, but I don't know. That's just a tough matchup. Thiago Moises, he beat the absolute shit out of, and then for some reason just kind of took his foot off the gas and let Thiago Moises come back. I thought he still won the fight. The judges gave it to Moises. Francisco Trinaldo, I thought he won that fight. Jakar Close, I thought he won that fight. He just fights to the level of competition he has, and it just doesn't work out for him. I don't know what his deal is. If he's fighting someone bad, he fights bad. If he fights someone good, he fights great. I don't know, man. El Kukui's dead. And I don't want to trust Bobby Green. He is one of the only fighters. He is a top 3 never trust as favorite fighters going up against a 39-year-old who I think is completely washed. I don't trust either one. The pick is going to be Bobby Green. He's the better fighter in this day and age, period. Do I want to trust him with my money? No, not really. If anything, it's Bobby Green by decision, or you just take the shot on Tony Ferguson. I can't do it. El Cucuy's dead. The pick is going to be Bobby Green. The bet's going to be Bobby Green by decision. Or you can just take the over. The over 2.5 is at -145. I think it got juiced up to -160. I would still take that. That thing, neither one of them can hit hard. So that over is almost guaranteed to hit. Play it that way. All right. Then the next fight of the night, we have Stephen Thompson at -150 going up against Michel Poirer at +130. Over 2.5, -205. Under 2.5, +165. This is an interesting fight, man. Let's start with Stephen Thompson. I just talked about how old El Cucuy is. Stephen Thompson's older. He is actually 40 years old. He has great striking. He has a really good schedule, fought for the title twice. It's just he's a little chitty. He's getting exposed there. Anthony Pettis put him out. We saw Tyron Woodley drop him multiple times. We saw Kevin Holland rock him in his last fight. If you hit this guy, he's very, very hard to hit. He has a karate style. We saw freaking Jorge hurt him. He has a karate style. He's very hard to hit, but if you do touch him, he freaks out and he does not react well. Now, he also has bad takedown defense, 64% takedown defense. It used to be better. The older he's getting, the just slower his fast twitches. So I don't know, man. It's not looking the greatest as of late. And that's how he's losing. Gilbert Burns took him down and got the job done. Bilal Muhammad took him down, got the job done. You could out wrestle this guy. He has pretty good cardio, which is nice. And he'll have a 2-inch reach advantage here, but he's just slowing in age. And I'm not saying like he slows down cardio wise, like he's physically slowing down. His snappiness, his quickness, his agility is declining. And that's just because he's 40 years old. He's still got it. He's still a right guy. He will still beat a lot of this weight class, but he is slowing. And if you give him the right guy, he's in a little bit of a trouble. Is Michel Pereira the right guy? I don't know. Michel Pereira, he is good, wild striking. I can't even say good. It's just wild. But he's toned it down a lot. After that Diego Sanchez loss, he just decided, you know what? I keep losing, doing craziness. If I win, I get double my paycheck. What if I simmer it down a little and just get the win? And he's done that ever since. I don't know if he'll ever go crazy again, doing backflips off the cages, dance routines to the octagon, backflips on people's heads in the middle of the fight. I've seen him jump on cages and like flip off of it in the middle of the fight. Like he does crazy wild shit. He just comes running at you. He slaps you instead of punches you. He throws flying knees. He jumps off the cage towards you as you're just circling. Like he does wild stuff, but he's calmed down a ton. And the result of him calming down are dubs. He has not lost since he's calmed down. He has good striking. He'll even mix in wrestling. He has a pretty decent double leg and pretty good timing. We saw him use it against Chaos Williams. We saw him use it against Andre Fiallo, against Nico Price, against Salim. We saw him use a lot of wrestling as of late. Problem with him is that he also slows down. He slows down quite a bit. He doesn't gas out. He will still fight you in the third round, but he is not the same explosion that he was in the first round and the beginning part of the second round. He slows down a ton. So, again, we're fading people with bad gas tanks. My problem is Stephen Wonderboy has two weaknesses, wrestling and his chin. Pereira, although he's not a potent power puncher anymore, the worse you get hit, the hardest you get clipped is something you don't see coming. No one knows what the fuck Michel Pereira is ever going to throw. That's one that's going to put Stephen Wonderboy out. Michel, it would not shock me if he went out there and knocked out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. It wouldn't surprise me if Stephen Wonderboy Thompson went out there and beat Michel. Michel's pretty durable, though. I don't think he's going to put him out. He would decision him. On the flip side, if Michel does mix in his wrestling, he's not the world's best wrestler, but if he blends it well, he can win rounds with that too. And he wins a lot of decisions. I mean, Santiago, decision. Andre Fiallo, decision. Nico Price, decision. Chaos Williams, decision. Like his last 4 wins are all by decision. He knows how to win rounds. He's a minute winner. I don't know, man. I think Michel is live. I liked him a lot more at +185 when I bet him. Now with the line where Wonderboy is only -150, I'm kind of swaying over to the Wonderboy side. But this is what you do. I think you bet Michel Pereira live. You bet Michel Pereira. And if he wins round 1, like he usually does, and the line flips, that's when you bet Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. We are in elevation. Michel, I love him. He's one of my favorites in the UFC. He will fade. I guarantee you he will fade. Wonder Boy's a crowd favorite as well. They might end up giving the 40-year-old the nod. So what you do is you bet Michonne now. He could catch him with some crazy shit. And then after he wins round one and Steven is the dog, that's when you pull the trigger. So I think you catch yourself and cover yourself on both ends, hedge. The pick is going to be Wonder Boy. The bet is going to be Wonder Boy live bet, to be honest with you. That's the way I'm going to play it. I have a bet on Michelle at plus 185. I'm probably just going to leave it alone for my sake because I always rock with my guys no matter what. But for you guys, I would pick Wonder Boy and I would bet Wonder Boy after round one. Get better value. All right. And then that takes us to the co-main event of the evening, where I'm kind of sniffing around another dog here. We have Alex Poirer at plus 105 going up against Jan Blachowicz at minus 125. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 at plus 150. Under 2.5 at minus 185. Jan Blachowicz is not that good, to be honest with you. I know he's a former champ, but he too is 40 years old. His striking's pretty good, but he's predominantly a counter striker, to be honest with you. He doesn't go first on like ever. And his wrestling, not as good as people think. They think, oh, well, he took down Izzy 3 times. He's just going to do that to Pereira. Pereira can't wrestle. Yeah, but that's the only way he wins. Izzy can. It was a 5-round fight, first and foremost. Izzy is a very slow starter. And Izzy was just kind of playing with his food, and it was weird. It was a different type of fight. This is only 3 rounds. He's gonna have to do it right away. And Jan did not wrestle until rounds 3, 4, and 5. That's when he wrestled. He slows down in his fights a little bit. So I don't know if he was saving that at the end, so that he had enough cardio. I don't know what he was doing. But this fight, Pereira hits like an absolute truck. So Jan has to come out and wrestle right away. And Pereira might be ready. And what happens when he throws a flying knee like he did against Andreas Maculaitis? And Jan's been knocked out before. Thiago Santos knocked him out. Glover Teixeira tapped him out. Like, he's been finished before. On the I don't know, man. I just don't like out that much. His cardio's only okay. He's 40. He can be taken out. His jiu-jitsu is pretty decent. He's a black belt. But Alex Pereira trains with Glover Teixeira, who, 1, has beaten Jan just a year or 2 ago, and 2, is a better black belt. So yeah, everyone thinking Jan's going to come out and just out-grapple him. I never trust non-wrestlers to win when their only win equity is by wrestling. It's a mistake, and people fall for it over and over again. Alex, on the other hand, is a striker through and through, and that's it. Difference is Jan also used to fight at 185. So people are talking about, well, Alex is a middleweight. Now he's up at 205. It's not going to be the same. Jan fought at 185. So this is middleweight versus middleweight. Neither one should have ever been at middleweight. Both should have always been at light heavyweight. They both found their way there. Alex is not young. He's 36 years old, but it's younger than Jan. So I know that his takedown defense is shaky. I know that he was taken down by Andreas Mikulaitis. I know he was taken down by Bruno Silva. I know he was taken down by Israel Adesanya. Like, none of that looks good. But he got up every time. He has a 2-inch reach advantage here. He loves to move forward. I know Jan prefers the counter strike. So, Alex prefers to pressure. So Jan is going to get backed up. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all for Jan. He wants to just sit back and counter strike. That is a terrible idea with Pereira. Pereira's going to put his lights out. If he wants to wrestle Pereira, he might be able to take him down. Is he going to be able to hold him? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So the pick is going to be Alex. The bet's going to be Alex at plus money. I think it's going to be Alex by finish. I don't hate the under, to be honest with you. And even if Jan does take him down and he utilizes his black belt, if you want to do him and think he can get the submission win, the under 2.5 covers you. But I'm going to take the plus money with Alex. I think he gets the job done. The pick is going to be Pereira. The bet's going to be Pereira. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, on TikTok, wherever there's social media, there is the Stats and Stacks podcast. And thank you for making it through with this nasally voice tonight. But hey, it's a great card. We're going to get through it no matter what it takes. We have Dustin Poirier, minus 150, going up against Justin Gaethje at plus 130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5, minus 125. Under 2.5, minus 105. Let's start with Dustin the highlight reel Gaethje. Kid's good. He has good striking. He has good wrestling that he will never ever use. He got one takedown in his last fight against Fiziev to show that he could still do it, and then mentioned it at the end of round one. He has no jujitsu whatsoever, but he does have good cardio that has improved. He does pressure quite a bit, and he's fought the who's who. He's fought a really, really good schedule. He hits harder. He has those crazy leg kicks. There's everything to like about Justin Gaethje. The only thing I don't like is how hittable he can be at times, and the fact that he can wrestle and he refuses to use it. I don't like that. And I also don't like his jujitsu. His jujitsu is bad. It's non-existent. He will tell you he has no idea what he's doing on the ground. On the other side, we have Dustin Poirier at with a 3-inch reach advantage. He too has good striking. He too has a good schedule. He has good jujitsu. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, okay? But he has no wrestling. So they're both even on the feet. Um, Justin can wrestle his ass off. Dustin can't wrestle at all. Dustin can grapple his ass off. Justin can't wrestle or it can't play jujitsu at all. He also has good cardio. So like everything about these guys are a virtual tie. Dustin does have a win and he over Justin, and he does have a 3-inch reach advantage. But they fought back in 2018. To be honest with you, I don't think Dustin has improved. I think he's looked exactly the same since 2018. I can't say the same for Justin. I think Justin has improved since 2018. He's fighting a little smarter. He's a little more controlled. We talked about that with Michel Pereira. Like he was a wild, wild fighter. He got a loss. Then he decided he's going to be a little more technical, a little more disciplined, and he hasn't lost since. Same thing can be said about Justin, outside of the fact of him losing to Charles Oliveira. That's a thing. But you know what? Who else lost to Charles Oliveira? Dustin Poirier. So I don't know, man. I think on paper this is a 50-50 fight. I went to go give Dustin the edge because he has the mental edge from winning and a 3-inch reach advantage. I went to go click the Dustin button, but then I saw a little bit of a decline in Dustin against Dan Hooker, to be honest with you. If Dustin has not gotten any better. Has he gotten worse? I can't say he has, but Michael Chandler was kind of on his way to winning that fight until Dustin came from behind and got that submission. Uh, uh, I've seen Dustin in some pretty rough spots the last few times. Can't say the same about Justin. So the pick is going to be Dustin. The bet is going to be Gaethje at the plus money. It's a sheer dog or pass situation here. And that's UFC 291. Again, it's a great card. It's going to be a super, super fun card. It's a little harder to bet, but if there was no money on the table, I would still watch this fight card. And it's a fun, super one. It's for the fans. It's for us. And when we win money on it, it just makes it that much better. Let's get it.